Hi, I'm Brandon. I'm an alcoholic and addict in recovery. The question, who am I, is a question that all of us have asked, and in fact, it's a question that most of us are taught is extremely important for us to know the answer to. But what if the answer to that question is, who cares? What if the question, who am I, doesn't even warrant an answer? And what if asking that question is actually causing us more problems in our lives, and the attempt to answer it is what creates the very feelings of emptiness, depression, anxiety that often drive some of us to substance use? So I'm going to read a little bit today from Going to Pieces Without Falling Apart by Mark Epstein and see what he has to say about this. So he says, if therapy could target the fear of emptiness instead of trying to wipe out the entire feeling, perhaps it would be more effective. What was this feeling really but the sense that I did not know who I was? Why should that be so objectionable? What I had learned from Buddhism was that I did not have to know myself analytically as much as I had to tolerate not knowing. This line of reasoning led me directly to a potent undercurrent in the writings of psychoanalyst D.W. Winnicott. Winnicott taught that to go willingly into unknowing was the key to living a full life. So I'm going to stop right there because there's a lot of good stuff there. So the first thing that he talks about is, what was this feeling really but the sense that I did not know who I was? And I have certainly experienced that sense of not knowing who I was and this kind of identity crisis. That we hear that buzz phrase a lot. Having an identity crisis and not really sure who I am. And we also hear the idea repeated that, I have to find myself. And what if the sense of identity, this identity that we're seeking, is really an illusion, and that the idea that we have to find ourselves, that there's some self out there for us to find, really is kind of a fruitless exercise. And what we need to do is be more comfortable with the sense that self doesn't truly exist, that the personal self is something that's always under development, that's something that's always changing, it's something that lives moment to moment. It's something that we only know of its existence in the present moment. What if we start to accept that and start worrying less about finding ourselves and more about what we're going to do with ourselves? So, I wrote in some notes off to the side, this reminds me of ideas about destroying the ego, getting rid of the ego, which is something that we talk a lot about in AA. This made me think about identity as an illusion, self-identity as an illusion. It's something, it's comfortable to be able to identify yourself and say, this is who I am. But is that really what's happening in our lives? Instead, don't we define ourselves by our actions? What we do next is really the thing that defines ourselves. And that's how I get to know myself, is through my actions. And this is why I love the way that AA has taught me about how to determine what to do next in life. I develop values that I feel like are important to me and use those values to inform the idea of doing the next right thing, and then doing the next right thing, and then continuing to do that as often as possible. And then when I feel like I haven't done the next right thing, taking a little inventory on that, not beating myself up for it, making amends where I need to, and then moving on. That makes sense more than dwelling on this idea of self-identity. And so, but to get to the point where I could even do that, I had to address some fears. I had to address a fear of the unknown. That's what was keeping me from living a value-based life for so long. I was scared of the unknown. And so I built up this identity, and I tried to live within that identity, instead of really focusing on what are my actions going to be? What am I going to do next? And he goes on to say, we are afraid to venture into the unknown because to do so would remind us of how unsafe we once felt. And I think a lot of people with substance use disorders can identify with this. A lot of times we get stuck in our habits, in the things that we're doing on a day-to-day basis, including abusing drugs and alcohol, because at one point or another in our lives, we felt unsafe, we felt uncared for, any number of things, and we don't want to change, but we don't want to go into the unknown because it reminds us of that feeling of unsafety, and that's not a comfortable feeling, and I get that. And so to address that, he says, what connected me even more assuredly to Winnicott's explanation of emptiness was his insistence that overcoming the fear of emptiness requires a new experience in a specialized setting. And for me, that meant a very specialized setting. I was at a point where moving outside of my substance use felt so unsafe to me that I needed to go to residential treatment for it. And I was there for 28 days getting treatment for it, and then did a further 2 months of outpatient work to get treatment. And it really took that radical new experience in a very specialized setting for me to feel safe with moving into the unknown. Now, after that, I find I'm far more comfortable these days moving into the unknown, in a sense, because I've left behind the idea of knowing who I am. And I love when I surprise myself, when I do something that surprises myself. I love that these days. When I do something that kind of shakes up my sense of who I am, because I still got that, but it's less solid, it's more fluid, and I think about it a lot less. And I will have these times where I will do something, I can't think of an example right now, but I'll do something that seems out of character, that maybe even someone will comment and say, wow, I'm surprised you did that. And it feels good to step outside of the person that I felt like I always was, or the person that I used to identify with, and do something completely unknown that I normally wouldn't have dreamed of in my active addiction. But to do that, I had to be in, as they say, a new experience in a specialized setting. And that doesn't mean you have to, go into treatment to experience that. People can experience that in, anything new, a church environment, AA, any other recovery program, other organized groups that do, volunteer work, starting a new exercise program. There's with a trainer, there's all sorts of things you could do to get that same type of experience, that same new experience that can help you address the fear of emptiness that you have, that often comes from our attempt to build up an identity for ourselves. So I really like this section because I do think that self identity is something that is overrated. And one of the things that I learned in AA and in my treatment was that who I think I am and how I would describe myself on a piece of paper are far less important than what I do next in life. And what I need to do is develop a system of values that help guide me to make good, solid decisions about what to do next in life, and also a method for how to handle it when I either do something for the wrong reasons or something doesn't turn out as expected. And those things and the actions are far more important in defining the person I am than what my own sense of self could ever be. That's it for today. I'll be back here tomorrow with more. In the meantime, have a good one.